So a few weeks ago, I uploaded a video called Get the Shot, Not the Gear, 5 photo kit upgrades to avoid, where I talked about 5 things that you should try to save money on and avoid upgrading if you can. And you guys absolutely blew that video up. I have no idea how it got so many views. It's currently sitting just under 30,000 views. You guys have put a ton of comments, had some great discussions under there, and I really appreciate all of the support that video and this channel has gotten just in the past few short months. But as that video was getting traction, you guys were leaving a lot of great comments on why you agreed as well as why you disagreed, and some reasons why you guys think those things are worth upgrading. So today, we're gonna talk about the flip side of that coin. What are the things that are actually worth upgrading? So here are 5 things that I believe are worth your money to upgrade in your photo kit. But before we get into it, I want to set the stage by saying all of the advice in this video as well as the previous video are all really tailored more towards someone that's maybe just getting into photography or someone that's a lot more budget conscious. The idea isn't to get the absolute best of the best quality out of everything, because if you want the best of the best quality, you are going to buy the best of the best gear. There's simply no way around it. And if you're uncompromising and you have the funds and means to do that, all the more power to you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for a lot of people that are looking to get into photography, myself included when I was first starting, budget was a huge issue. It's really hard to justify spending $10,000, $15,000 on photo gear of the highest quality when you aren't sure if you'll be able to make any of that money back. So all of the gear that I recommended you don't upgrade was because there are cheaper options that I think offer better value proposition for the price. And so on the other side of that coin today, we are going to talk about 5 things that for the price, spending a little bit more money gets you a lot of value and really has a big impact on the quality of your photos. The first thing that I absolutely recommend spending a little bit of extra money on to upgrade are your lens filters. Filters are pretty simple. They're pieces of glass that you put in front of your camera lens, whether that is a screw-on filter or even a square filter that you might put onto a matte box. It's an element of glass that is going to go in front of your lens that is going to change what your photos look like. Different filters have different effects on your photos. And camera filters can run a really wide range of prices, starting from $10 to $15 on the really low end for some filters, all the way up to hundreds if not thousands of dollars for the really high end. Now when you're looking at filters, sometimes it can be really enticing to look at the really cheap ones, the ones that go for 50 bucks and you get like 5 different filters. But the problem that you'll often run into is that the quality of those filters is not very good, and they wind up affecting your image in ways that you don't want them to. Take this filter for example. This is my Polar Pro 2 to 5 stop variable ND filter. This is the original Peter McKinnon version that does not have the mist or halation filter built into it. And this is by far the best neutral density or variable neutral density filter I've ever owned. Prior to this filter, I've owned a lot of different variable ND filters as well as just fixed ND filters. And what I found was that the really cheap ones almost always gave my photos and videos a somewhat green or purple color shift that I would then have to correct for later on in post. This filter, however, does a great job of avoiding most of it. There is always going to be a slight color shift, but not nearly as perceptible as I've seen in the past. This particular filter costs about $250 to $300 if I remember correctly, so it's definitely on the expensive side for filters. And you can certainly find variable ND filters that are cheaper than this and are just as good. But speaking from personal experience, spending a little bit of extra money on this filter has saved me tons and tons of time that I would have otherwise spent correcting for a color shift if I used the cheaper neutral density filters. Think about it this way. Everything that is in front of your lens is going to wind up in your photo one way or another, no matter how subtle or how obvious. And if you're going to put something in front of your lens that you've spent hundreds if not thousands of dollars on, why put something in front of it that could have a negative effect on your image? The second thing that is absolutely worth your money to upgrade is prime lenses, especially if you are shooting on the original kit lens that might have come with your camera. Prime lenses will generally have far better image quality, they'll have much better bokeh, they'll have better subject separation, they'll have faster apertures, as well as better low light performance, all for a very reasonable price. Depending on the type of camera you're shooting on, whether it's a crop sensor or a full frame camera, you can usually pick up either a 50mm, a 35mm, or this one, an 85mm, for around $300 to $500. But all that to say, if you are currently shooting on kit lenses, or if you feel like your current lens is holding you back from getting the image that you want, prime lenses are a really great way to not only upgrade your photos, but not spend a ton of money at the same time. The third thing that is absolutely worth your money to upgrade are camera straps. This one in particular is my Peak Design Slide Lite, which, if I remember correctly, was around $50 to $60. And for that $50 to $60, you get a strap that is very comfortable, very easy to adjust on the go, and can adjust from being very short and very tight so you can have your camera right up at your chest, to being very long so that you can have your camera all the way down by your waist. And especially when I'm shooting a wedding for 8 hours at a time or more, it can be really tiring if I have a uncomfortable camera strap. And if you just bought a brand new camera and you're still using that flimsy, very uncomfortable neck strap that they always come with, it's really gonna be worthwhile to spend the extra $60, $80 on a really nice, comfortable camera strap that's gonna last you for years and years. I've got 2 Peak Design straps that I've had for more than 5 years, and I've never had any issues with them. I will use them until the day I die. They are fantastic. The fourth thing that is absolutely worth spending your hard-earned money on is good, high quality, and reliable SD cards. Now, for the most part, memory has gotten pretty dang good. Even the cheaper SD cards are pretty reliable, and even the very well-established, well-known brands are starting to get cheaper for the same capacity that you would have paid a lot more for just years ago. And especially now that cameras have gotten way more demanding, the speed of SD cards has gotten even more important. And not all SD cards are created equal. Just because it's from a well-known brand does not mean it is going to be reliable for you, and does not mean it's going to give you a good experience. I'll give you an example. When I was first starting to shoot professional video, I was doing a lot of event videography for car shows and corporate events and conferences, and I started to realize I was changing out my SD card a lot because I was shooting on 16 gig SD cards. So rather than spending the money on some good 64 or 128 gigabyte SD cards, I decided to buy a 512 gigabyte or a 500 something gigabyte SD card from Samsung that I got brand new for $45. Now, if that sounds a little bit too good to be true to you, it absolutely was. I went into this video shoot with this brand new SD card thinking I was gonna be able to shoot this entire video and not have to change out my SD card once. So I went through and I shot this entire event, did almost 100 gigabytes worth of footage, and throughout the entire event, my camera never indicated there was an issue recording the footage. It worked just like any other SD card. But when I got home and it was time to offload all of that footage onto my computer, I plugged in that SD card and it read nothing. All of my footage was completely gone. I don't know what happened, but there was just an absolutely catastrophic failure with this card, and 100 gigabytes worth of footage for an actual paying client disappeared overnight. Now, luckily for me, I had a second shooter on that event, and luckily for me, that was a small event. So the project that I was working wasn't a huge project to begin with. I was able to take the footage from my second shooter, who was using reputable and well-known SD cards, and use that to create a final product that my client was still satisfied with. But no single photographer wants to experience that fear of potentially losing a client's footage. I personally use Lexar professional cards, either the 1667X or the 2000X, because in my experience, these cards give you the best value and performance for your money, and I have never had a single failure. As you can see, pretty much every single card that I use is a Lexar professional. And of course, if your camera has the ability to shoot on 2 SD cards, shoot a backup. If you can, you are shooting your photos twice on 2 different SD cards, so that if one of them fails, you will at least least have the other one still to work off of. And now that it is a completely different lighting situation in my office, we can talk about the fifth and final thing that is worth your money to upgrade. And that is your laptop or computer that you use to edit. Now, this isn't anything that goes on your camera or in your camera or is part of your camera, but it is a vital part of your workflow. If you want to create your own style, your own brand, your own look, every single photo that you take, you are going to want to edit. And if you're editing on an old computer that has a hard time keeping up with your camera and your photos, then that process can be a big headache for you, and it can take up so much more time than it needs to. When I was first starting out, I was editing on a MacBook Pro from 2007. That was a hand-me-down from my parents. At the time, that computer was an absolute workhorse, but fast forward 9 to 10 years later, that computer was struggling to do even the most basic of tasks. It couldn't even keep itself on for more than 45 minutes to an hour without needing to be tethered to a brick. And on top of that, it sounded like a plane that was trying to take off, it overheated and got super hot to the touch. Eventually, the battery started expanding and pushing my keycaps and my trackpad out, and eventually I finally just had to get rid of it and upgrade to a new, more modern, more capable laptop. And when I tell you that upgrading to something that's not even too crazy as far as specs, cost maybe $1,600, which was pretty much what that MacBook Pro cost when it was brand new. I think even the MacBook was a little bit more expensive when it was brand new, but a very reasonable price for a modern workstation computer absolutely changed my workflow. Now, this is not a small investment by any means. A good laptop or a good desktop that is going to be able to keep up with your photos is probably going to cost you around $1,000 to $1,500 in a reasonable range. If you're really going towards the high end, it will probably cost you more than $2,000 or $2,500 pretty easily. But the biggest benefit of upgrading the computer or laptop that you edit on is that it's going to save you a ton of time and a ton of headache, and in a lot of situations it's going to make you want to edit. When you have a computer, when you have a machine that can keep up with all of the edits that you want to make, you're going to want to try to push it a little bit further. You're going to want to try things that you maybe weren't able to do on a previous laptop that was struggling just to keep up with the most basic of tasks. And so if you find yourself being constrained by what your computer is able to edit, and you find yourself holding yourself back from things that you want to do, it very well might be worthwhile to upgrade to a capable and powerful laptop or PC. And when it comes to computers, I'm gonna link a few options for you guys down in the links below for you guys to check out. These will all be very reasonable laptops, pre-built PCs or Macs that aren't terribly expensive but should keep up with even the most demanding of photo editing workflows. And if you want to support the channel and you want to grab one of those laptops or computers, make sure you use the links down below to help me out a little bit and make sure that I can continue to make videos like this. All right guys, that was pretty much it. Those were 5 things that I think are absolutely worth the money for you to upgrade in your photo kit. If there's anything that you guys disagree with, or if there's anything you think I missed that you absolutely found value in upgrading, make sure you leave a comment down below. If you liked this video and if you found it helpful, click that like button. If you enjoy photography content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you know when the next video comes out. All right guys, I'll see you in the next one.